I think, the key message that came from Jamaica is that, we move away from just writing reports to actions. Because they say we've had many meetings already and decisions have been made, but they don't see any action. So at the end of the consultation, they came up with 8 strategic plans, and each strategic plan has specific indicators, right? So it's more or less like the SDGs, where we can actually measure and say, how much of what we have agreed have we implemented. And the good thing about this consultation is that they were not just looking at what can the WCC do, but what each participant can do when they go back to their churches. So it was the individuals and their churches, their congregations, and their global partners. At some levels, we heard reports of how churches have actually picked up the issues of the decade and implemented them. We heard examples, from the Jamaica Council of Churches, where most of their members have now put women in leadership positions. For example, the Jamaica Council of Churches itself, its president is now a woman. There was the Moravian Church, they have a woman president. So from there we saw examples where churches have actually taken action about women's participation and leadership. Examples were given even of the World Council of Churches, that now when we look at the leadership of the World Council of Churches, we have 4 presidents that are women and we have 4 presidents that are men. And the leadership of the Central Committee, we have the moderator who is a woman and the vice moderator who is a woman. So they gave those examples as something that could be attributed to the decade, increasing women's participation in the churches. And, there were also sad reports of increased violence experienced by ordained women, right? And some of them who have been given parishes, they've been told that they are no longer ordained and therefore they can no longer do their jobs. And some of them, going for retraining to do different jobs because the church, some of the churches, are no longer friendly to women. We heard most of those examples, coming from Latin America. But we believe that it's not only Latin America that has experienced the backlash, it's a global problem. And we also, heard stories that showed that, the churches are still not yet competent in dealing with issues of sexual and gender-based violence. And that's an area that concerned most of the participants, saying that this is something that we had agreed on during the decade, but we don't seem to have done much progress. Well, strengthening the networks of women, is one of those things that came from the decade, because I know, in the case of Africa, there's the Circle of Concerned African Women Theologians. It was a baby that came from the decade, and it exposed, some of us to issues of. It exposed us to how to do feminist theology, and my own PhD was based on the work of the World Council of Churches in terms of women's participation in the church. So most of us received a theological education, and our work was influenced by the results, by the issues that were raised during the decade. It's unfortunate that, the church the churches have to take the lead from the society. We should be the ones, guiding the churches and the society on how to deal with the gender-based violence. So I believe that it is true that, the Me Too campaign is or should be our campaign as well, to say that there is violence, as gender-based violence experienced by women and men in the church. So how can we begin to respond to that? And I look at Thursdays in Black campaign as our own response to that. And my wish then is to see the Thursdays in Black campaign adopted by all our member churches as a way of responding to the Me Too campaign. And from the younger generation, what we learned was, the importance of addressing their issues, that they want to experience the church as being youth-friendly. And for them, they understood youth-friendly churches as the ones that listen to what are the youth of today concerned about and how can they address those issues. And even when we were talking to the children, they also talked about, they want a church that is not judgmental, a church that shows compassion, a church that practices the messages of Jesus. The very first one is the gender policy, because that was mentioned at the consultation, and they said that it's not just for the World Council of Churches. They want to see more of the members of the World Council of Churches adopting the gender policy, that each church ideally should have its own gender policy. So for the consultation, that was number one. And number two was to see more church leaders take the lead in dealing with the sexual and the gender-based violence in their own churches, as well as in the society where the churches are found.